Welcome, Tailgate Legends, to this Thursday. It's been a disappointing few days. We have snow. Not that I mind snow, but I just don't really love snow. I like it all the way up until Christmas, like the New Year. Like as soon as January 2nd hits, like I'm off it. All right. So we got snow. The Packers got fucking wrecked. It was as disappointing of a game as I've ever seen. Just because I think most of us expected to win or at least come close to winning. And it just ended up being a complete massacre, a beatdown. I don't know if I've ever seen the Packers come out that flat, just that bad. So do not have a victory week for you, but next week we got the Panthers, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I think the Packers can. I think they can win that game. Maybe, I don't know. Christian McCaffrey might go nuts though. So in honor of the very disappointing, loss to the Chargers, I am going to do top 10 biggest fantasy disappointments. So I'm going to run through last week's matchups. I'm going to do top 10 biggest fantasy disappointments in honor of the disappointing week that we've already had. And then I'm going to run through and do my predictions for next week. So I'm going to start it right off. We have Burns against Cheeseheads with Attitude. Landon, you got your second win. I'm proud of you, man. You beat a really broke down Burns team. Things didn't go the way you wanted to go, Burns. Only put up 93 points this week. David Johnson did not play. Alvin Kamara didn't. He didn't play either. Julio is really your only good player right now. T.Y. Hilton didn't play either. Like, your team is just decimated with injuries. But that's kind of how you set up your team, very top heavy. That's how you've had it this is the third year in a row where it's like, you have one, maybe two injuries. Like, dude, you're fucked because you have no depth. So injuries got you this year. You're going to end up with, I'm going to end up with a good draft pick. So yeah. Next we have Weiler against Shearer, the no-names, the two fucking lamest named teams in the whole league. Weiler comes out with the victory, 135-130. Evan put up a good week, 130. Can't be mad about putting up 130. It just, again, though, you put up 130. It'd be nice to get a win. But at 130, I think you're probably 50-50-ish. Weiler put up 135. Good week from you. Yeah, got the win. And more importantly, got the win against Evan, who was in that race. It was in that playoff race, that 3-team playoff race with you guys. So, yeah, and then next we have Hot Chub Time Machine against Ricky 2000. Lemke, high score of the week, 190. That's a lot, man. 190. Team looks really good. McCaffrey, again, I've said it a couple times. I'm worried that McCaffrey is going to be that guy that you have to have on your squad in order to get a championship this year. And then you got Nick Chubb. Your receivers are really good. Quarterbacks are good. So, yeah. Roofer put up 143. Really good week from you. And you still lost by, 47. Roofer might not make the playoffs. Had a really good year, but, that division is tough. I mean, I'm serious. Your division is probably better than ours right now. You have Evan, you have Weiler, you have Lemke, and you have Roofer. Those are 4 championship caliber teams. So, yeah, it's got to be an odd man out. That's how it's been in our division for 4 years. So, 5 years. Or 4 years. Yeah. So next we have Mr. Fist against Greasers. Greasers ended up getting the win, 147 to 88. 147. That's a really good week. Yeah, Greasers are kind of solidifying themselves as a playoff team. But there's only 4 weeks left, so somebody's got to make it. Mr. Fist only 88 points, had kind of a disappointing week. Jaguars look like shit. Like you got Leonard Fournette and you got DJ Chark going. And I don't know if you started Gardner Minshew. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But those are 3 Jaguars. So basically, if the Jaguars have a bad week, I don't know, like you're just not going to put up many points. Yeah, and then next we have Shit the Bed Fred against Pump and Munch. Yacht only put up 79 points. That's just not good. But I've said it. Aaron Jones, he can have huge weeks, but if he doesn't bust out and that Packers offense looked like shit this week, I don't think it's going to continue. But Aaron Jones did not have a good week. Nobody on your team really had like that blow up game, which you're kind of relying on. You're relying that one guy to really blow up for you, and then you're relying on your competition to also not put up very many points. But Prusky got the win. Yacht gets the loss, and Prusky is one step closer to the playoffs. Prusky is another one of those teams I don't really want to see in the playoffs just because he does have talent. So, yeah, we'll see. And then last we have me against Boggs. Boggs was low score of the week, 155-57. Had a lot of bye weeks though. Still decimated by injuries. So, yeah, pretty happy with my week. So, all right. So moving on, I am going to do my top 10 biggest fantasy disappointments of the year. It was actually kind of a tough list to come up with. And I only had like 15 minutes to come up with this list. I wanted to hurry up and get this video out, then I got to get ready for work. And top 10 biggest fantasy disappointments. These are in order. These are in order of what I think are the biggest fantasy disappointments. Some of you guys might agree. Some of you guys might not. I think this list is really going off of what my expectations were at the beginning of the year. I think, I've played fantasy football with you guys for a while now. My perception of a player's ability is probably a little different than other people's. Everybody's is different. So, all right. So here we go. Number 10, top 10 biggest fantasy disappointment this year. I'm going to go with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Now, the reason I have him on this list mostly is because Davante Adams has been out. I mean, Davante Adams has been out since week 4. Like, he's been out for like 5 games. He didn't have super high expectations coming into the year, but he had sort of high expectations coming into the year. And if you would have told anybody that, hey, Davante Adams is going to miss a good chunk of time, so MVS is going to be the number 1 receiver in the Packers offense, I think his ADP, his average draft position, skyrockets. So the fact that Davante Adams has been out, Scantling was supposed to be the number 2, and he was already supposed to have a good year. I think he's had a couple good games, but I think he's had probably a worse year as the number 1 than anybody thought he was going to have as the number 2. So, number 10, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Number 9, I haven't even drank my coffee yet. This whole PM schedule shit just fucks me up. Number 9, I have Odell Beckham Jr. The biggest reason he's on here is because of how expensive he is. Now, remember, I always do this based off of our fantasy football league. I don't do it off of NFL. Somebody paid $125. Not going to name names here, but somebody paid $125 for Odell Beckham Jr. You expect him to be at least in the top 10 receivers. Well, you expect him really to be in the top 5, maybe the top 3. At $125, he's not even close to that. He's just not getting targets. He's not getting very many catches. He's not getting yards. He's not getting touchdowns. It's just, I don't know, whatever. He's just another receiver. So Odell, number 9. Number 8, top 10 biggest fantasy disappointment is Todd Gurley. Now, Todd Gurley actually hasn't had an extremely bad year, not like Odell. However, I think all of us would agree that he was a top 2 fantasy player last year, him and Patrick Mahomes. Um, if you're trying to find a fantasy MVP from last year, you're looking at Mahomes or Todd Gurley. I know you had all the offseason stuff, and they basically warned us, hey, Todd Gurley's not going to be getting as much work, which has happened. He's still having an okay year. He's a decent RB2, probably RB2, maybe RB3 some weeks, but at best, he's an RB2. At worst, he's like an RB4. So, it's got to be disappointing for you, Boggs. He carried you to 2 championships, and, now he's just kind of a. So, Gurley, number 8. Number 7, I have Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't think anybody would argue with this. A huge reason is because Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. People were projecting him for 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's going to break the all-time or the single-season receptions record, which Michael Thomas, I think, has a shot at. But Juju Smith-Schuster, super disappointing year. If you give me 1 second, I'll pull up his stats. So far, he's had 11 points, 14, 17. 17 was a good week. 1 point, 0 points, 14, 2, and 20. I mean, that's, his his best game is 5 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. That's his best game. I'm looking at this. 3 catches for 15 yards, 1 catch for 7 yards, 3 catches for 16 yards. It's just, it hasn't been good. So I love Juju Smith-Schuster. I really hope he can come back next year, but we'll see. All right, number 6. I have Le'Veon Bell. I don't think anybody would argue that Le'Veon Bell has not had the year that people thought he was going to have. And in this league, he's, I think $105. Let me see. $102. He's $102. He's outside the top 20 for running backs, just for running backs. He started the year with a 24-point game against me. Okay, looking good. Sam Darnold did go out, so that did affect him some. But Sam Darnold's been back for a couple weeks now, and he's not done shit. Since then, 14, 8, 12, 14, 10, 3, 16. That's awful. That's awful. And I think the more disturbing part is he's still getting the work. He had 23 touches in week 1. He had 31 touches and only managed 14 points. 31 touches in week 2 against the Browns, managed 14 points. After that, 22 touches, 8 points. After that, 22 touches again, 12 points. After that, 15 touches, 16 touches, 14 and 10. And then only 11 touches against the Jaguars. And then he had 25 touches. So he's getting a lot of work. I don't know if we're going to see the same Le'Veon Bell we've seen in the past, but, again, we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath, though. All right, so Le'Veon Bell, number 6. All right, so top 5. Top 5 biggest fantasy disappointments. Number 5, Robbie Anderson. Again, this kind of goes back to where I thought people were going to land. I thought Robbie Anderson was going to be a stud this year. I had super high hopes for Sam Darnold. I thought the Jets were going to be pretty good this year. Who knows what's going on there, but you're looking at 2 points, 1 point, 2 points, 2 points, 5 points, 5 points. He does have a 23-point anomaly in there. So again, this is really just me. I thought he could have approached that wide receiver 1 spot where he's a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. That's where I thought he was going to fall this year. Not even close. He has been off the radar. He's not even startable. It, I don't know what's going to happen with him. Who knows? At this point, I doubt he even stays on the team after the year. He's just not producing, but we'll see. I think the Jets are going to draft I think they get a receiver with one of their top picks. I would be shocked if they didn't. We'll see. All right. Number 4, I have Damian Williams. This just goes back to his average draft position. He was being drafted as an RB1. I never thought that he was going to be an RB1. I thought at best RB2, probably an RB3. I just don't think it's very good. I have certain philosophies that I try to stick by. And one of them is how talented are you? And I think that Damian Williams has just never showed that he's super, super talented. The only reason I think he's had success is because he's in that offense. Andy Reid does a really good job with his running backs. You take a look at his points. He started the year great with 18, but then 9, 4, 10, 0, 10, 22. And the only reason he got 22, he had like a 90-yard run. So he had 14 touches for 128 yards, and like 90 of them came on one play. So, really hard to depend on those big plays, especially when, you're carrying or you're splitting the load with LaShawn McCoy, and a couple other people too. So, Damian Williams, just based off his average draft position, number 4. So, yeah. Number 3, so top three biggest fantasy football disappointments this year. This next guy comes to no surprise to anybody, Joe Mixon. So I had really high hopes for Joe Mixon. As you guys know, I traded Aaron Jones, knowing that Aaron Jones could be really special in that offense, and he has been. He's a top 5 running back right now in our league. And I traded David Johnson for a receiver and picks, but I traded David Johnson, and you guys know how much I love David Johnson. A lot of you guys said it was a really good deal. I don't think you guys really understand how hard it was to come off of David Johnson. I love David Johnson so much. So I thought going into the year, okay, I'm going to have Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon, and Kerryon Johnson. I thought Kerryon Johnson could be a high-end RB3 or, best case scenario, he was a mid-level RB2, and I was okay with that because I had Joe Mixon and Ezekiel Elliott, and then I traded for Joe Mixon's handcuff, Giovanni Bernard. So I was really comfortable with my running backs. Well, Joe Mixon sucks. Kerryon Johnson got hurt. So you kind of take a look at his points, 1 point and 4 points to start the year. Then he does have a 20-pointer. Then he has 9 points, 15 points, all right, 4 points, 7 points, and 9 points, or 19 points. So now down the stretch, his next 2 games, he has the Ravens and the Raiders, who are both top 10 run defenses. Really disappointing. He's still getting a decent amount of work, but I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully things change with Andy Dalton out as quarterback and A.J. Green in at receiver. I highly doubt that taking Andy Dalton out of that offense is going to help him, but we'll see. Still got to rely on him. So Joe Mixon, number 3. Number 2, we have O.J. Howard. So I don't know about any of you guys. I thought that O.J. Howard was I think everybody thought he had potential to be the best tight end in the NFL this year. He truly has that potential. That's how talented he is. He's a really good run blocker. He's a really good pass catcher. But one of the reasons I was a little more okay with letting him go was because Bruce Arians' offenses historically don't throw to the tight ends, like, ever. So I was okay with getting rid of O.J. Howard. I actually tried to trade back for him just because I thought maybe he would get traded to another team. That didn't happen, so I'm glad I didn't trade for him. But, you take a look at his stats. He hasn't broke 10 points yet this year. He has 3 points, 9 points, 5 points, 2 points, 4 points. That is as disappointing as anything I've ever seen from such a talented player. You go back and you talk about, I like to keep talented players on my team. which is why I'm not getting rid of Joe Mixon, because he is uber talented. OJ Howard is also uber talented, and I think this will pan out for Yacht eventually. But I think it's going to take him going to another team. So we'll see. Maybe he stays on the Buccaneers and they try to make it work. I don't know. And last but not least, the biggest fantasy disappointment of the year comes in at number one again. 2 times on some of my lists. 2 times, number one, Antonio Brown. Bar none, the biggest fantasy disappointment. He was being drafted as a wide receiver 1 beginning of the year. In my Woodchucks league, Derek's league, Woodchucks, Boggs and I took him in like the 3rd round or some shit, and it did not help us. We fucking took AJ Green thinking, AJ Green's going to be back by week 4. That did not fucking help us either, but Antonio Brown, fucking Antonio Clown, you know what I'm saying? He is just out of his fucking mind. Can't even explain what the hell happened. He's out millions and millions and millions of dollars. I don't know, like maybe he's able to come back. I just heard that he met with the NFL today. He's going to get suspended. So like, even if a team wanted him, they're going to have to eat that salary from Antonio Brown while he's not able to play for X amount of time. And who knows how long he's going to get suspended. So Antonio Brown, $67. Yacht drafted him for $67 at the time. Everybody, again, was like, damn, that's a good deal for Antonio Brown. Like, it's still Antonio Brown. The Raiders look good, too. Derek Carr, highest completion percentage in the NFL. Could you imagine Antonio Brown in that offense not being a dipshit? Imagine Antonio Brown in that offense. I think that he would absolutely be a wide receiver 1 if he was playing, but he's not playing, so that fucking sucks. All right, so again, I'm going to run down the standings. I'm going to try to run through the standings every week because we are in the home stretch. We only have 4 games left to play. So in the Lannister division, we have Hot Shop Time Machine at number 1, 7-2, and then Weiler with a tied record at 7-2. Lemke gets the tiebreaker for his points, I believe, because I think you guys split your season series. So, and then Evan is at 6-3. 2 games back with 4 to go is Roofer, and then 3 games back with 4 to go is Burns. And I'm really rooting for Burns to maybe lose a couple more games, maybe Landon wins a couple more, maybe Burns gets that first round bye. We'll see. And then in our division, we have me at the top, and then after that, man, it's still a fucking log jam. Shit the Bed Fred, Pump and Munch, and Greasers all at 4 and 5. Now, right now, Prusky and Yacht have the tiebreakers, so they're technically in 2nd and 3rd, with Greasers in 4th, all tied records though. And then you have Mr. Fist and Fat Bottom Girlies both at 2 and 7. They're only 2 games back with 4 games to go. That's a legit chance because there's 2 of them. So there's 3 people at 4 and 5 and 2 people at 2 and 7. So for 5 people to be that close, there is a legitimate chance that if one of those 2 at the bottom can make a run, they absolutely can make the playoffs. So I'm really excited. Yeah, and I never even went through my predictions for next week. Hang on, give me 1 second. I'm going to make this real quick. I know this video is getting real long. Okay, so next week we have Roofer against Cheeseheads with Attitude. I'm taking Roofer. You need this win. Burns is playing Weiler. Nope, hang on. Hot Shop Time Machine is playing Shearer. So if Evan gets a loss, you get a win, which very easily could happen. You're only 1 game back with 2 to play. So we'll see. So I'm taking Ricky. Then we have Burns against Weiler. I'm taking Weiler. He's like a 63-point favorite, so that's fucking crazy. Weiler's team is just better. You got Lamar Jackson going against the Bengals. Melvin Gordon, Marlon Mack, Keenan Allen, Kenny Golladay, Emmanuel Sanders. Team looks good, Weiler. Kind of coming back here. So, yeah, taking Weiler. Then we have Hot Chub Time Machine against Evan. Sure. Um, I am going to take Evan. I'm going to take Evan, I think. He's got Jameis Winston and Chris Godwin against the Cardinals. Their pass defense, I think, is last in the NFL. Um, and then you have Dalvin Cook against the Cowboys. And then you have Dak Prescott for Lemke against the Vikings. And I have fucking Zeke and Amari Cooper against the Vikings, so I'm not super excited about that either. But yeah, and then you have like Tyler Lockett against the Niners. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm taking Evan in this one. Then we have me against Greasers. I am taking me. I'm gonna keep this whole thing going. However, I have really tough matchups. Russell Wilson against the Niners. Conversely, I could do Kyler against the Buccaneers. Like, do I start my MVP or do I start my matchup, you know? Zeke against the Vikings, Cooper against the Vikings. Mike Evans has a good matchup. Cooper Kupp has a good matchup. But we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm taking me. But Greaser's team is looking a hell of a lot better, so I'm not super confident in that. So we'll see, though. Next, we have Mr. Fist against Shit the Bed Fred. Prusky, you get a win here. You need a win here. Like, everybody in our division needs a win here. I am going to take Prusky in this one. His team does seem to be kind of coming around here. Again, it's one of those teams I don't really want to see in the playoffs. But I don't know. Mr. Fist, Frank Gore, like, what's his ceiling really? Like 10 points? I don't know. Damian Williams, if he doesn't bust a big one again, what's his ceiling? I don't know, 10 points. Odell against Buffalo, no way. McCole Hardman, he just hasn't been that great. I don't think he's topped like 2 or 3 receptions in each of the last 4 weeks. And then Marvin Jones been good, but yeah, I'm taking Shit the Bed Fred. And then we have Fat Bottom Girlies against Pump and Munch. This is Boggs' chance to get back into the playoff race legitimately here. Boggs, you get a win here against Pump and Munch. You hope for one other guy to lose, and then you're only 1 game back with 3 to go. He's got his team back. He's got Breeze back against the Falcons. So I am going to take Boggs in this one. He's got A.J. Green back. He's got Drew Brees back. So I think Boggs is kind of thinking he can go on a little bit of a run here. His squad looks pretty good this week, so we'll see. All right, so that's it for today and this week. Again, good luck, everybody. See you next week.